Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. The Hang Seng Index closes below 15,000 points for the first time in 13 years. It's the end of the road for one of Hong Kong's oldest travel agencies. And more than 30 people were killed in flash floods and landslides in the southern Philippines. Hong Kong's key stock benchmark has closed below 15,000 points in a massive sell-off. Tech shares led the retreat amid fears of another big rise in U.S. interest rates. Chloe Fong reports.
The U.S. economy improved in the third quarter, but that was of no comfort to Hong Kong investors. They were on tenterhooks in anticipation of another interest rate increase in the United States next week. The Hang Seng Index ended the week by retreating below the crucial 15,000-point mark, shedding 3.7% to close at a new 13-year low of 14,863. It came after U.S. tech giants, including Amazon, Facebook's parent company Meta, and Apple, reported disappointing results caused by rising interest rates, record inflation, and weak consumer demand. Hong Kong-listed tech stocks followed suit, with the tech index dropping 5.6%, offsetting 3 sessions of gains. Heavyweights Meituan, JD.com, Tencent, and Alibaba led the losers, dropping between nearly 5% and over 7%. Auto shares were also under pressure. Carmaker BYD skidded to a one-year low, losing nearly 10%. Li Auto and GAC Group each lost more than 10%, while XPeng plunged 15%. Developer Long4 Group led the property loss, sinking 11%, followed closely by Greentown China's. Markets across Asia were mostly weaker, with mainland indices dropping up to 3%. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
Teenagers who were jailed for taking part in the 2019 anti-government protests can consider working in the Greater Bay Area, according to the security minister. Chris Tang revealed that the authorities are working with the business sector to provide placement opportunities for the young inmates. He said the idea is part of a plan to help hundreds of jailed youths reintegrate into society. Other initiatives include teaming up with the Metropolitan University to provide courses in correctional facilities. On a separate note, Tang insisted that legislation work for Article 23 has not stopped, although the item was pulled off this year's Legislative Council agenda. One of the city's oldest travel agencies is winding up after more than half a century. Hong Tai Travel Services reached the end of the road after being unable to repay debts due to COVID. Macy Mock reports.
Parent company of Hong Tai Travel Services has begun winding up procedures because of insolvency. The move by Kaisa Tosan Development came 2 days after the Hong Kong, Macau, and mainland branches of the 56-year-old travel agency said it would maintain a small-scale operation. Kaisa Tosan said Hong Tai's operating income last year was around 20 million yuan, but it incurred a net loss of around 79 million yuan. It added that the travel agency has to wind up because COVID had weakened its ability to make a profit, and it was unable to repay debts. Hong Tai Travel Services, founded by Jackie Wong in 1966, is one of the city's oldest and largest firms engaged in tourism. At its peak, it had over 30 branches in Hong Kong, the mainland, and the United States. The company was partly acquired by mainland firm Shangtou International Investment in 2011, before its current parent company took over 3 years ago. Hong Tai is the latest in a list of travel agencies that were forced to close because COVID crippled their business. Morningstar Travel Services, which folded earlier this year, had been another big name in the local travel trade. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Hong Kong has logged 5,656 new COVID infections, 390 of which were imported. There were 535 cases from 401 schools. Health officials identified one more case of the BQ.1.1 Omicron subvariant transmitted locally. Imported infections included 9 more of the XBB subvariant. The virus claimed another 7 lives. The government hopes to release an updated code of conduct for civil servants early next year. The term political neutrality will be dropped, while upholding national security will be included. Macy Mock reports.
The first draft of the updated Civil Service Code will undergo consultation in the first quarter of next year, with the final version expected to be announced in the following quarter. The amendment includes dropping the term political neutrality, one of the core values civil servants have to uphold. Speaking during a radio show, Civil Service Chief Raymond Yeung said a change is needed as the phrase has garnered different interpretations. Under the political neutrality rule, civil servants should serve the government with total loyalty, no matter what their political beliefs are. Yeung said requirements in the code have not changed, but the amended version would provide more clarity. More core values will be added, including upholding national security. Yeung said society a few years back would not have expected national security threats in the city. The government is also set to draw up a roster requiring civil servants to make themselves available to help in emergencies.
We are aiming at mobilizing staff up to tens of thousands for mega incidents that require a lot of staff input, a lot of immediate staff response. We are hoping to be able to do some drills in the first quarter of next year.
Yeung said those called up could help during natural disasters and public health emergencies. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Secretary for Justice Paul Lam insists the government had the public's interest in mind when amending the Prevention and Control of Disease Ordinance. The amendment allowed the Health Secretary to revoke around 20,000 vaccination exemption certificates he deemed questionable. It came just days after the court ruled in favor of a judicial appeal against the legality of such a move. But Lam said in an interview with selected media outlets that further appeals by the government would only occupy precious judicial resources and prolong the public health risk. Overseas, at least 31 people have been killed by flash floods and landslides in the southern Philippines, and about 10 others are missing. Emergency teams rushed to hard-hit Maguindanao province to rescue stranded people. Rainfall was unusually intense as a powerful storm headed towards the region. Low-lying villages were inundated as floodwaters rose rapidly. Many residents climbed to rooftops to await help from police and soldiers. The impact of the storm was also felt in the north of the country. In the province of Sorsogon, heavy rain forced trucks to take shelter on the roadside. Russian President Vladimir Putin has blamed the West for putting the world in a dangerous position. But he also offered an olive branch, saying Moscow never considered the West as an enemy. Sachin Cafe reports.
In his annual speech to a Moscow-based think tank, Russian President Vladimir Putin said the help which the West provided to Ukraine has escalated the conflict. He defended the invasion of Ukraine, saying it was aimed at stopping domination by the West. Russian leader warned that the world is probably entering the most dangerous decade since the end of the Second World War. Putin insisted that Russia would not use nuclear weapons in Ukraine, saying it has no military or political benefits. He again stated that the Ukrainians are trying to detonate a dirty bomb and blame Moscow for the explosion. With relations between Moscow and Washington at its lowest since the Cold War, Putin stressed that Russia never considered itself as an enemy of the West. And in a message to the West and its NATO defense alliance, the Russian leader said, "Let's stop being enemies, let's live together." Putin hinted that he might attend the G20 summit on the Indonesian resort island of Bali next month. There are indications that President Xi Jinping and his US counterpart Joe Biden might also turn up. While chances of a three-way meeting appear to be slim at the moment, Putin's claim that the world is at a historical turning point could spur the movement for peace. Sachin Katwi, HKIBC.
A man has gone on a stabbing rampage in a supermarket in Milan, killing one person and injuring 5 others. A supermarket employee in the Italian city died en route to hospital. The injured included Spanish footballer Pablo Mari, who was on loan to Serie A club Monza from Arsenal. Arsenal said Mari was in hospital but not seriously hurt. Police arrested a 46-year-old Italian man who is alleged to have mental health problems. The potential supply of private sector homes in the coming 3 to 4 years has decreased to 95,000 units. An analyst believes that's because developers slowed down construction to avoid selling flats cheaply as buying sentiment is weak. Joanna Ho reports.
In releasing its latest statistics today, the Housing Bureau predicted that the potential supply of private sector homes in the coming 3 to 4 years will drop to 95,000 units, down 3,000 from the previous estimate. At the end of last month, there were 15,000 unsold units in completed projects, 63,000 flats under construction but not yet offered for sale, and 17,000 on sites where construction may start any time. Because of the weak market sentiment, the number of pre-sold units under construction dropped by 1,000 to 10,000, the lowest level in nearly 4 years. But the number of flats under construction at 73,000 was down 4,000, declining for the third quarter to lead the plunge in overall potential supply. Construction on 1,400 units began in the third quarter, taking the total number of flats being built in the first 9 months of the year to 5,600, which is 22% fewer than for the same period last year. Edgar Lai, Senior Director of Valuation and Advisory at Cushman & Wakefield, believes developers slowed down construction as they didn't want to sell flats cheaply. But he thinks that the potential supply can still meet demand in the short term, saying it will take 2 to 3 years for the market to absorb the accumulated unsold units in completed projects. In the third quarter, the number of unsold completed flats stood at 15,000, the highest in more than 15 years. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng ended the week down by 564 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent lost $12.40, the tracker fund down 57 cents, while Meituan was down $10. Wuxi Biologics was down 95 cents. BYD was down $18.10, while AIA Insurance was down by $2.65. To the forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro's at 7.81, pound sterling at 9.07, while the Australian dollar at 5.03. Over in Europe, the London FTSE is currently down by nearly 33 points. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, has completed his $44 billion purchase of the social network giant Twitter. Musk tweeted, "The bird is freed," in an apparent reference to the deal closing. He sacked a number of senior staff, including Chief Executive Parag Agrawal. Twitter shares are suspended from trading on the New York Stock Exchange today. Musk, who now describes himself as the chief twit, has been critical of Twitter's censoring policies, and his takeover has had a polarizing effect. There's a bigger smile these days on the face of an 8-year-old British girl who lost all her limbs to meningitis when she was younger. Harmony Allen is now able to move more freely after becoming the first person in the world to be fitted with prosthetics that contain computers and sensors.
I love them. And on a scale to 1 to 10, 10, I'm enjoying them.
We walked all along the lake, and
Yeah.
you done that all on your own, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it was just, you can't explain the feeling really, because it was just so lovely, wasn't it?
Both feet out and in.
Harmony was barely 1 year old when doctors amputated her limbs to give her a fighting chance to survive after contracting meningitis. After years of experiments and physiotherapy, the girl from Bath was fitted with microprocessor hydraulic knees. She can now walk 2,500 steps a day and play on the swings with her friends, and is eagerly looking forward to all the opportunities that have opened up for her. On to the weather now. Bright and sunny tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 23 and 30 degrees. Remaining fine and dry next week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Friday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Raymond Yeung. Good night.